Today we're analyzing an architect's personal home floor plan to see how much we can improve upon. This house is situated in Muskoka, Canada, and it has already great bones, and let's see how we can refine the interiors to make the most out of the space. So let's start with a run through to get you familiarized with the project. Here at the entry, on this side you have a library, you have the coat closet, you have the living dining kitchen, and then you have a pantry. On this side here you have the powder room. Here, this little section is a coffee station, and here this is a butlery room. Then you have the stairs going down to the basement. This house is only one level plus the basement, that's it. Then you have the office, then you have this section over here that opens up to the garage. This is a mud room. You have a little linen closet, and then you have a spacious garage over here. On the right wing of the house, you have the master bedroom. You have this little entry here. This is a nook, but it's like a bonus space. You can really make it whatever you want it to be. And then you have the bedroom with two equal size closets. The only request that was given is as soon as you walk into the home, he wants to see the views of the lake, since this is a lakefront property, which is so cool. But besides that, everything else, I have pretty much free reign to just reconfigure the space however I seem fits. The first thing that I noticed that I didn't like when I saw this floor plan is how open it is as soon as you walk in, to a point that it almost feels exposed. As humans, we have this natural primal instinct of wanting to discover things and having areas that are more secluded. Like, the house doesn't unfold as you progressively enter through it. It just immediately gives you all it has, which is not ideal. You always want to strike a balance between feeling open but also feeling intentional. So there's three things that I want to fix. First is the library, because this corner doesn't feel like a library. It just feels like a corner of a much bigger room. It doesn't feel like I wouldn't want to read there. Also, the entry for the master bedroom, the transition from common areas to private areas is extremely blunt. It's extremely exposed. I don't like that. And the third thing that I want to change is the location of the staircase, because we have to remember this is a lakefront property. So right now the stairs are taking linear frontage, giving access to those views, and the staircase is not that important to have those views. So we can definitely maximize those views for the kitchen later on. So let's start by emptying the bottom right corner of the great room. I would place the staircase in the foyer because it adds more depth and it just creates more interest as soon as you walk in. And then with the space on the right, I would actually create an enclosed library and also create a little passageway that tucks in to give access to the master bedroom. Now I'll quickly rearrange the living room furniture. And since we created this little passageway, the wall intersects with the shelving and it creates this little square of empty space that is wasted. So what we can do is simply move the water closet to the left to make the bathroom bigger and not waste any square footage. I'm gonna stop the frame here for 3 seconds and see if you're able to identify what my next tweak will be. It's not a major flaw, but it's definitely something that can be improved upon, and if you need more time, feel free to pause the video. Another thing that I wanted to tweak is the powder room location, because right now I feel like it's a bit removed from the main living areas, and I wanted to have something a bit more central and closer to the entry. So let's start by removing the pantry and the existing powder room. For the coat closet, I'm going to give it sliding doors instead of opening doors. That way I can really maximize the footprint of the foyer. And behind the new coat closet is where I would put the powder room. This can be a little bit reminiscent of the entry bedroom hallway, where it's more tucked away and secluded. We have the same thing for the powder room, and since we have a lot of square footage to work with, we do have the luxury to insert those little hallways that create enough separation to not feel too exposed. And left of the dining, we're going to utilize that whole space to create the heart of the home, which is the kitchen. And what's great is that right behind the kitchen we have access to the pantry. If you remember, in the original floor plan, the pantry was kind of disconnected from the main kitchen because it was bifurcated by this main hallway. Now everything is close together and it feels like the same continuous space. Now here you have an empty corner that is pretty big, and you definitely don't want to have that wasted square footage. So you can definitely give it some function by giving it a breakfast nook that utilizes the entire space perfectly. Next, we fit out the kitchen with the appliances. As you can see here on this main wall, I created a little indent for the fridge to not be sticking out against the cabinetry of the kitchen. And the reason why I put the sink, stove, and fridge kind of close to each other is because there's this theory about the kitchen work triangle, and you'd want to have those spaces, those three appliances, as close to each other as much as possible to minimize unnecessary walking. And so here is the best that I could come up with, because I absolutely wanted the sink to be against this wall. Now this kitchen is much bigger than the previous one, and what's great is that this main wall is sufficiently big enough to house the coffee station that was there on the original floor plan. But we also have to remember that it also had a butlery, And it also had 2 hallways, but now I removed one of those hallways, so we're left with 1 hallway, which is kind of underutilized. It's just basically 2 plain walls with no purpose besides letting you outside. So what I would do is make that space, give it some utility by carving out a little bit of square footage from the office to give storage for a butlery area. That way you're not losing the butlery, but you're also giving some sense and purpose to that little hallway. I do have to say that the pantry as it is could easily double as a butlery room because you do have enough counter space to prep your meals, and you do have also a sink. The area that I carved out from the office, it was more so to respect the integrity of the original floor plan, and that area doesn't necessarily have to be a butlery if the pantry space works better. It could also just be storage area, or it could even be just completely deleted and just leave the office as it was. But if you do end up putting storage there, I wouldn't be too concerned as far as circulation goes, because 9 times out of 10 the area is going to be clear and you're going to be able to come and go easily. And since this house is very symmetrical from the outside, I made sure that the interiors would allow for windows to be evenly spaced so the facade looks uniform. We're going to migrate outside to work on this terrace because I do not like it at all, because the entirety of the length of the house, it has the same depth, given it the same importance, but not the entirety of the house is made equal. You have common spaces, you have private spaces with the master bedroom wing of the house. So as soon as you walk into the terrace, there's no real cues of telling you, hold on, I'm kind of stepping into a more private area versus a more acceptable, common area where I can congregate with people. So there's no focal point to lure people in. So what I would do is simply define the common spaces for the terrace and the private spaces for the master bedroom. And by squaring off the terrace, it's just much more easier to furnish. You're going to utilize it more. This is a lakefront property, so you're going to be outside a lot, and this is far more useful. And not only that, but it's also easier to build, and it's really, I don't see any downsides. Anyways, I just like it much better like this. Now this is a suggestion about how I would furnish the terrace, and what I like is that now the architecture is speaking to you. Now if you accidentally wander too much on the right wing of the house, you kind of start sensing, hold on, it's compressing, it's becoming more intimate, maybe I shouldn't be here, and you're naturally going to be drawn to the opposite side of the terrace, which is the furthest place from the bedroom, because it has much more social magnetism. And another detail that I want to point out is right besides the summer kitchen, I utilize this outer corner to make a bar at the same height of the kitchen counter, and those windows are sliding windows, so you can basically turn this area into an indoor-outdoor bar, which I thought was pretty clever and a nice use of space, and that way you're not wasting that little outdoor corner. Here you have the before and the after, and here's a rendering. I hope I was able to clearly explain my redesign process, and if you guys have any ideas of your own, I would genuinely love to hear them out, because I'm always curious to see how other people think about the space. If you enjoyed this redesign, consider subscribing for more floor plan transformations, and if you know of anyone who's planning their own home, feel free to share this video with them, and until then, I'll see you on the next one.